Welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and I'm excited today to be dropping my top 10 solo game list from 2019, and I'm really excited to do this as we're on the cusp of moving into the brand new year. Yes, moving from 2019 into 2020. So first off, before we talk more about the list, I want to wish everybody a happy New Year's. Thank you guys so much for your support. And what's really exciting about this list is it comes as a follow-up to a video that I did on December 5th, which was called the Top 25 Solo Games from 2019 by the Rolling Solo community, plus the fact we hit 20,000 subscribers on the channel. So all that bundled right in there. We had 25 solo games voted on by the Rolling Solo community, so we had a great and fantastic list to go through. But now I'm going to give you my top 10. Now my top 10 does come from within the 25 that were voted highest on the list by the Rolling Solo community, but the order in which they are going to appear has some variations and differences. It also has some similarities. So hopefully this is really interesting, so you can compare my personal picks for the top 10 versus your community picks for the top 10. So without further ado, how about we start with number 10. In the 10th position is Aeons and the New Age. You can see here on Board Game Geek rated extremely high at an 8.9, and if you take a look here at the community rankings, you'll see that it's very much recommended, even though not as many people have voted on this one, that it is playable solo. And if you know anything about Aeon's End, there's multiple iterations into this game world. It's a deck building game. That is the sole purpose and focus around this one, but it's one that's been around for some time. The great thing is every new major iteration of Aeon's End adds more excitement into the mix. This is a highly, highly recommended game. If you are new to the hobby or to solo gaming in general, this is one I definitely recommend you check out. Or if you have experience with Aeon's End in the past and want to try something fresh and new, this is the ticket. In the 9th position is Street Masters Aftershock, coming out in 2019 from Blacklist Games. This is additional content in relation to the original release of Street Masters, which was fantastic. So this is going to add even more content and more variation into the game. As you can see here from the images on Board Game Geek, there's lots of miniatures, but the game has a lot going for it, including the modular deck system, which is something that was introduced with Street Masters and is handled very, very well to allow you to essentially have a lot of replayability throughout the different decks in the game, whether it be the setup, the scene, the enemy, the actual heroes you choose to use. All that stuff ties into that replayability, and as a solo player, that is fantastic. Now, the other thing too to note is the fact that there's a lot of miniatures and cards, as I mentioned, but the greatest thing about this game, the biggest plus in my opinion, is the setup time is super minimal, it's easy, and everything can be ready in advance of your gameplay. So that's one of the high pluses on this one, is not a lot of miniature games do a good job of that. This one will have you bringing it back off the shelf time and time again. In position number 8 on the list is Madeira, Unintentional Malum Act Number 1, landing in 2019 and making postal workers everywhere backs ache. Guaranteed, 100%. This thing is huge. It is a giant box campaign system. If you're looking for a fresh campaign to play as a solo player, something that has a lot going on, this is going to be the game for you. It is a very large game. It is a lot of fun, a lot of components, and a lot of it is very high quality. There's even UV coating on the actual tiles themselves. The miniatures are well done, but this was years and years in the making, and they did a fantastic job and have also added additional acts going forward. This is one I highly recommend solo gamers check out, especially if you're interested in the theme. Coming in at number 7, we have Star Wars Outer Rim from 2019. This game, coming from Fantasy Flight Games, was a lot of fun to do on the channel. I did a full showcase of this, along with a majority of the games you're going to see prior on this list already mentioned and the ones going forward. But this one was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. We had a lot of back and forth in the community, and I just love the way this thing is structurally built. It's fantastic. Cannot wait for more expansions to be added into this one, because I really think it'll flush this game out, and it could become something really, really special. So at this point, it's a very good game, but it could become an excellent game in the future. In position number 6, we have The Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, landing in 2019. Again, another one from Fantasy Flight Games. We'll go ahead and take a look at some of the images here. This was one I really thoroughly enjoyed. Again, similar to Outer Rim, doing a showcase on the channel. Had a lot of fun with the community with this one. Again, if you're familiar with Mansions of Madness, this takes that game and then moves it to the next step in terms of design. It also introduces an app again to actually walk you through the gameplay steps, but not taking your sole focus off what's going on the table. It also introduced some really interesting and unique card mechanics that Mansions of Madness handles typically through dice. So again, this allows for some mitigation that Mansions of Madness really doesn't have. So that was something I really enjoyed at Lord of the Rings, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they happen to do to expand this game going forward, because there's a lot of potential behind this one, and I very much enjoy it. Now we're moving into the top 5 of the list, and we're starting things off here in the 5th position with Cloud Spire, coming from Chip Theory Games. One of the biggest reasons I love this game so much is, first off, complexity rating is extremely high. I do enjoy a lot of games that are complex. I also enjoy this in the fact that it's a different direction for Chip Theory Games in terms of the type of game they were creating with Cloud Spire. So that was something that was a plus for me, moving away for a moment at least from Too Many Bones and other things that they create which are successful and beloved by the solo community, and trying something new. And what also struck me and really was appreciated was how much love they put into this game from the solo perspective in terms of the books, the campaigns that they added in. There's a lot of solo specific content inside this game, and they're really well known for that. So big kudos to them for that, plus the fact I absolutely love the game itself. Next on the list, in the 4th position, we have Cthulhu Death May Die, landing in 2019 from Simon Games. This one was the shock for me of the entire list. This was the one that I didn't even assume would be inside of my top 10 this year. It has literally blown me away with how much I enjoy this game. I am not an enjoyer of absolutely everything H.P. Lovecraft. A game has to nail fun for me in order for me to care about it. The H.P. Lovecraft theme is something I do enjoy quite a bit, but I've had my share of games that are very poorly designed, and this is not one of them. It's a very well designed game. It's a lot of fun, and even if you die, which you will multiple times, you're going to want to come back to this thing over and over again, especially if you're a solo player. If you skipped over this particular game for any reason, you definitely need to check this one out. In the 3rd position of the top 10 solo games from 2019 is Marvel Champions, the card game, coming from Fantasy Flight Games. This is a massive IP game, obviously. With the Marvel wrap around it, there's high expectations for this one, and I can tell you right now, they blew it out of the water. They've already started with a fantastic base game that alone by itself is already pleasing the solo community and has pleased me greatly. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's fast, it's furious, and it's a lot of fun. You'll want to come back and play this thing over and over again. The only thing about the base game that was a little bit silly was the fact there wasn't legitimate dividers inside of this base game, but I do give them a little bit of kudos for the fact they actually made an insert worth talking about, which is a step in the right direction. The next thing I want to see from them is these dividers coming out. The only thing that could come around the corner with the dividers, if potentially, maybe down the line, they release a pack of dividers that can be used in this insert. Maybe they've got that up their sleeve and we don't know it yet. But regardless, the actual base game and the gameplay of this thing is fantastic. If you skipped it or looked past it as a solo gamer, you need to check it out. Even if you're not a huge Marvel fan, you'll still find a lot to enjoy with Marvel Champions. 2 solo games left on the list, and in the second position we have Nemesis from 2018. This comes from Awaken Realms. This one actually started its Wave 1 deliveries at the tail end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019. So this 2018 mark right here on Board Game Geek could likely just as easily be 2019 as well. Plus, Wave 2 started delivering in the middle of 2019, so it hits all the criteria to land on this list. So, with that being said, this was a fantastic entry from Awaken Realms. It blew me away. I didn't even play this thing when it first delivered to my door. I put it on my shelf for months. That was a huge sin. And then when I eventually played it in a multiplayer capacity, I was blown away at how good it was, how much like Battlestar Galactica, really, it reminded me of, but in my opinion, a better and more exciting version of it. And then on top of that, when I played it solo, the base game, it was just as much fun. And then on top of that, there's like a story mode or cooperative mode to play through with the Kickstarter version, which was also a blast to play through. So really, this game nailed it from multiple different angles, and the gameplay is just as great as all the miniatures that you're going to see in these pictures on Board Game Geek. And there are tons of miniatures in this one, especially if you grab the Kickstarter. They're beautiful looking. But again, the gameplay here is what's fantastic. They did a great job of capturing the alien and kind of, feel to the game, essentially. And the actual game board is beautiful. The components are beautiful. There's really not enough good things that I can say about this one. I enjoyed it so much and also had a blast playing this one in a showcase on the channel. And in the number 1 position on the list of my top 10 solo games from 2019, as well as your top number 1 game from your top 25 list on December 5th for the Rolling Solo community, we both agree that Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon is number 1 for 2019. This comes from Awaken Realms. It's a fantastic, epic, large, huge, card-driven, miniature-driven adventure game with huge theme behind it. It's got all kinds of interesting mechanisms like area movement, it's a cooperative game, deck, bag, and pool building, dice rolling, modular boards. There's just so much to go through that I couldn't even highlight this in a quick minute or two. But I will say that for those individuals that are interested in looking into this further, they're likely, and I don't know this 100%, but I can't see them not putting out a retail version of this game in the future. I don't know when that would be, but if you missed the Kickstarter, similar to Nemesis hitting retail, I'm sure there will be a Tainted Grail copy landing in retail stores in the future. So you'll have your chance to get in on it, because I really do believe that if you're looking for an adventure story-driven game that kind of has I just love the way the world works in terms of it changing based on your decisions. And it's something that has the replay value to make you want to come back and try the things you couldn't try the first time through, to see all the side quests and all the different variations. The miniatures are absolutely gorgeous. Another thing I'll mention is that if you want to check out the unboxings, I've done the original Kickstarter unboxing for the base itself, which is likely to be the retail version. And then I've got the Monsters of Avalon here for the miniature side of things that add even more miniatures for representation within the game to kind of make it pop even further. That's a Kickstarter thing that I don't likely see coming to retail. But again, I'm not privy to that information, so don't take it from me. But yes, we also did a Kickstarter preview on the channel, which was also a ton of fun. And that Kickstarter preview can be found here, where I did all kinds of videos on it during the development of Tainted Grail. So I actually had 2 different prototypes come through my hand prior to this final version. So I've really gotten to see how this game went from its original draft, essentially, in terms of a preview, to kind of the second changes, and then again all the way to the final one. And that's just cool to see. It's always fun to see a game kind of change and mold. And the feedback they received from Kickstarter backers, they took to heart, and they really did make a lot of major changes to the gameplay to amp it up and make it even better. And it's obvious it's gone over quite well. So easily for 2019 top game, top of the list, Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. So that is going to wrap up the top 10 solo games from 2019. It was also really cool as I went through my list to kind of look back on the list that you guys put together, the top 25 solo games from the Rolling Solo community from 2019. That was on December 5th that video rolled out. And there are some differences there. Like, I think Tainted Grail is the only one that actually is in the exact same spot with the community. So even though we all enjoy the same handful of games, of which that are all solo, and there's many more beyond the 25 you guys named, and my list only has 10, but within the top 10, of course, these are very, very beloved games, but I have differences in terms of where I put them on my list based on where you put them in your list. And this is what's really cool about top 10s, is just the fact that they're always a personal choice. Plus, they're always also, if you look at it from a different standpoint, they're really kind of specific to a timestamp or period in time. Because really, as of right now, this is my top 10. But talk to me in about a month to 2 months, I might actually shift some of these games around that quickly. Because again, with more time and more plays, I might have different feelings on different games. And you're the exact same way. I'm sure if you put a top 10 together months later, you might revise that quickly. So if you want to, in the comments below, if you would go ahead and put your top 10 for the year, I think that'd be really fun. And if you can't think of all 10, or maybe you didn't get 10, maybe go with 5, or maybe just the one you thought was the best. And if it's Tainted Grail, well, then there's going to be a ton of Tainted Grail comments in there. But maybe you got a game in there that's not even in the top 10 during this video, or was barely mentioned in the top 25, and you loved it. Let us know in the comments below. Let people find out about that particular game. That would be great. Get the conversation going. But again, if you've got a nice list, throw it in there. I'd love to see it, and I'll definitely be commenting along the way. So thank you guys so much for an awesome, awesome year in 2019. Cannot wait to see where 2020 takes us. Thanks again for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.